This is the story of Shandon Nicole Scott. 32-year-old Shandon Nicole Scott was born on January 20th, 1989, and was a mother of two beautiful children. She attended Granite High School in South Salt Lake and was a student and a cosmetologist. Her passion was cosmetics and hair, and she could always be found taking care of her family members' hair. Shandon also loved hiking, painting, traveling, singing, dancing, going to the gym, and watching movies. Anyone who met Shandon immediately saw her outgoing personality. She was involved in an on and off again relationship with a 31-year-old man by the name of Terrence Trent Voss. Friends encouraged Shandon to leave Voss numerous times, as they had a history of domestic violence. Voss was also a former member of the Salt Lake Metro Gang Unit and had a lengthy criminal history that included arrest in connection with several shootings dating back to 2006, when he was 16 years old and shot a gun from a vehicle on the highway, a felony. He is a Bloods gang member and has been linked to BMG, also known as the Black Mafia Gangsters, an organization that has terrorized Salt Lake for decades with drive-by shootings and homicides. On December 19th, 2015, Voss allegedly had an argument with Shandon inside of his home before leaving the home and firing 5 shots into the garage and front door. The Salt Lake City Police Department issued a wanted poster for him, and he was arrested on January 13th, 2016. On January 30th, 2021, Salt Lake City Police responded to a restaurant where a bloodied Scott told them Voss beat her up after accusing her of flirting with another man. The police detective gave her contact information for victim advocates who could help her obtain a protective order. According to the report, Scott stated that she was worried Voss was going to show up at her home and hurt them all. She also divulged he'd assaulted her back in November, breaking her leg, requiring surgery that night. She did not report the assault back then and stated that she thought Voss would kill her if she did. Despite repeated warnings from friends and family, Shandon continued to involve herself with Voss until one day it all came to an end.
We begin with some developing news that first broke this morning. A crash shutting down parts of I-80, but it's what police found in a car on that roadway that sparked a deeper search.
Police got a call around 3 o'clock this morning of a single vehicle crash. They responded to that accident and were shocked to find a woman dead in the car, the driver nowhere to be found.
A neighbor told Fox 13 that on May 1st, he heard the couple fighting. He said they were in the carport until he asked them to stop, and then they continued their argument in a car. A short time later, gunshots were fired. Police believe that he fatally shot her at some point during the altercation before driving them both away from the residence. About 1.5 miles away, He crashed into a wall on the freeway between westbound State Street and 700 East exits on Interstate 80 in Utah at around 3 a.m. Abandoning the wrecked vehicle with Scott's body inside, Voss fled on foot before officers arrived on the scene. Later that day, he was taken into custody and booked into the Utah Department of Corrections on a parole violation. He had been in prison, but was released on early parole due to COVID-19 at the request of the Utah Department of Corrections. After many failed visits to Voss's home, agents eventually lost track of him, making him a fugitive since February 2021, 3 months before Shandon's murder. 2 News investigative reporter Wendy Halloran has been investigating parole fugitives, including Voss, for months and recently reported on the issues adult probation and parole agents face in supervising parolees.
AP&P has denied me access to records they don't want you to see. Thanks to whistleblowers, I can share with you details that paint an alarming picture of repeated supervision failures. My sources say it's a game of Russian roulette with people's lives. Once the Metro Gang Unit's public enemy number 1.
We're talking about a really violent gang, the Black Mafia gangsters.
Terrence Voss has led a life of crime, from drive-by shootings to aggravated assault and stabbing another inmate with a shank.
It was a perfect storm of failure, starting with the Board of Pardons releasing it.
Did AP&P do enough to properly supervise him?
There was nobody in that house but an empty GPS without a leg.
And now, a body.
For the past 6 months, on average, AP&P lost track of and could not account for 328 parolees statewide each month, including Terrence Voss.
Shame on the board for letting him, not be shame on AP&P for allowing him to stay on. That's their job.
I requested an interview with Dan Blanchard, the director of AP&P, to ask him why the agent took no action when violations occurred and why his supervisor allowed it. But the answer was no. And Mike Haddon, the director of the Board of Pardons and Parole, also refused to talk. So I went to Tom Ross, the executive director of the Commission on Criminal and Juvenile Justice.
I'm here sitting with you because I'm not running from this. I know why I was brought in.
Do we have a supervision problem in this state?
I think we have a supervision challenge.
I asked Ross specifically about the Voss case and his many chances at rehabilitation and parole.
There can be unintended consequences.
Ross was informed about Voss's criminal history in advance of the interview, but said he could not speak about AP&P or the Board of Pardons and Parole. Instead, he said,
And I'm going to do everything I can in my role as from the policy perspective to try to look at it and see what do we learn from this? What can we improve going forward? And were the right things at play?
5 days after Shandon Scott was murdered, Voss's parole agent amended his warrant request, writing that initially Voss was doing well with his parole. However, in light of the circumstances, it appears as if that is not the case. The Salt Lake County District Attorney's Office is still screening the case for criminal charges.
During a candlelight vigil held at Fitz Park in South Salt Lake, family and friends joined together to remember and pay tribute to Shandon Scott. She was remembered as a loving mother and a protector of those close to her.
Yeah, Dan and Debbie, the victim, Shandon Scott, was a mom and leaves behind a 15-year-old daughter and 7-year-old son. Her friends say she was loyal and loving, but stayed in a bad relationship for too long.
She was so loved and so cared about.
Dozens of people turned up at a Salt Lake City park tonight to show their love for 32-year-old Shandon Scott.
She was my best friend. I don't know. It's just horrible.
Heather Redford said she was with Shandon the night she was murdered.
I was with her 2 hours before it happened, and I never thought in a million years that I would get a phone call saying, Heather, what's going on? Like, what happened? What's happened to Shandon?
Voss was a parole fugitive and has a history of assault and weapons charges. Friends say they told Shandon to leave him months ago.
We told her to stop. And now, she's not here anymore because of it.
Tonight, they wrote notes to Shandon and sent them off into the sky. They hope she gets the message.
I love you. I love you, Shandon, and I'm so sorry that you had to go through this.
Can everyone please bow their heads, please?
A night of prayer.
Thank you for bringing us all together for the best woman in the world.
For 32-year-old Shandon Nicole Scott. Police say she was shot during a domestic violence incident early Saturday morning before she was found dead in a crashed car on I-80.
I'm sorry that you're gone.
Friends in tears, reassuring one another, reassuring her family, reassuring her kids. Around 100 people showed up to Fitz Park in South Salt Lake to share stories, embrace, and let balloons go in honor of Shandon.
This was the story of Shandon Nicole Scott.